I'm gonna start by saying that you should not upgrade your gear just for the fun of it. Okay, that's wrong. You should not feel like you need to upgrade your gear just because some YouTuber says that it's the best gear out there. But I know that there's some of you out there, including myself, who loves researching and upgrading your gear. It's part of the hobby for you, and who am I to stand in the way of fun? But my goal with this video is to give you an idea of what gear to upgrade if you want that upgrade to have the biggest impact on your backpacking experience. If you want a good night's sleep in the backcountry, getting a good pillow is gonna be one of the best ways to help with that at well under $100. There are three things that I think are really important to look at when it comes to picking up a good pillow. The first one is pillow height, and I think a lot of people forget to consider this when choosing a pillow, but it's one of the most important things in order to help relieve pressure points and be comfortable while you're sleeping. If you have broad shoulders, you wanna make sure that you're getting a pillow tall enough in order to not have your head kind of sinking down and then causing a kink in your neck, as well as putting a lot more pressure on your shoulder and arm if you're a side sleeper. But if you have smaller shoulders and you don't want a super tall pillow, that's kind of kinking your neck in the opposite direction. So getting a pillow with the right height is really important. The second thing is pillow stability. You can buy some pillows out there that feel like you're laying on a balloon. You lay on one side and it kind of balloons up on the other side and just never feels very stable. So you want to make sure that you're getting a pillow with a good baffling system, and as you lay on basically anywhere on the pillow, it's still going to be comfortable. The third thing is something I've been a proponent of for a very long time, and that's having a way to attach the pillow to your sleeping pad so it's not kind of going around all over the place as you toss and turn over the course of the night, and that'll wake you up every single time. So I like a pillow with a pad strap because it makes it very versatile, and I'm able to use it with basically any sleeping pad that I have. You can also get things like Velcro strips with the Sea to Summit pillows, but yeah, pad strap's going to be one of the best options out there. Luckily, there are a bunch of really good pillows that have pad straps, like this Exped Mega Pillow, which is the most comfortable pillow that I've ever tried. Or you can add pad straps to a pillow yourself, like I have done with my Dream Sleeper, which is my favorite ultralight pillow. As I'm getting older, finding time to exercise and stay in shape is getting harder and harder, and is only gonna get harder once Steffi Poo and I introduce our new baby girl in August. But exercising is super important for me in order to be able to push myself and really kind of do the kind of trips that I want, but also essential if I want to avoid injury. I really started focused hiking training back in 2020 when I was training for the Great Divide Trail. But over the last 4 years, I've really kind of refined what I need in order to train for backpacking and hiking trips. While I train kind of full body all the time and I'll go on runs and things, there's really two activities that I think are super important in order to train as effectively as possible for backpacking and hiking. Those two things are strength and volume. Strength, I find, is really gonna help you with the injuries as well as be able to like go up hills very effectively. I have this full home gym now with a full squat rack. I find squats and deadlifts really effective for building strength and kind of that injury prevention piece. But even if you don't have enough space or can't afford a full gym like this, then getting a band like this and doing some crab walks and just kind of really building up your leg muscles, especially your glutes. I find that strong glutes really help with everything, is gonna be really effective. You can also pick up things like kettlebells, which are gonna be an insanely versatile item. This is an adjustable kettlebell from Bells of Steel, which I'll have a link to in the video description if you wanna check it out. But with a kettlebell, you can really do really good glute exercises with kettlebell swings. You can do squats with it, and then you can even do like basically anything that you want from an overhead press standpoint. You can do curls with it. Just if you're gonna get one item for strength training, a kettlebell would probably be the one that I'd recommend. The other thing that I think is super important is training volume. And the way that I do that is I have a standing desk. So that not only helps me with avoiding getting really tight hips because I can stand up and kind of stretch out a little bit more, but I also picked up an incline walking treadmill that just folds up under my standing desk and I can fold it down and then walk. It was pretty inexpensive for how much use I get out of it, but I'll set up the standing desk, hop on the treadmill, and just go for long walks as I'm working. And it's a really good way to get in a lot of steps and a lot of volume. I've also been using it in order to test backpacks. I'll load up a bunch of weight into the backpack, hop on the treadmill, and I can put a lot more miles on backpacks testing instead of only being able to test them out on trail. This helps me out in order to make sure to get you guys the best information that I can. The third thing that's gonna make a big impact on your backpacking experience is going to be a sleeping pad. It's part of the whole sleep system experience, having a good pillow, having a good sleeping pad. If those are really dialed in, you're going to sleep really well while you're out on the trail. If your limbs go numb as you're sleeping, especially if you're a side sleeper or you get cold or you find yourself tossing and turning and shifting positions dozens of times a night, then it might be time to consider upgrading your sleeping pad. There's really two things that I think are important with a sleeping pad. Some people might say there's more like weight, but I rather sacrifice weight for a comfortable sleep every single time. And there are pads out there that don't weigh a ton, but are still very comfortable. The first thing is warmth. Obviously, if you're cold, then you're not going to be able to get a good night's sleep. R-value is something that is tested with a lot of sleeping pads out there. It gives you a good indication of how warm a sleeping pad is going to sleep out in the field. But I found that there is a little bit of discrepancy between what the R-value is for some pads and then how they actually perform once you get them out under real world conditions. Pads like the Big Agnes Zoom UL, I find it sleeps a lot colder than the R-value would indicate. Then we have two pads that sleep warm and are super comfortable with the REI Helix and then the ZenBivy Ultralight. These pads have R values in the high 4s that are going to sleep plenty warm in any kind of 3-season conditions. The second aspect I think is important for comfort is pressure relief. So if you're a side sleeper, you probably experienced it on a pad at one point or another where you're laying on your side and your arm kind of goes numb, falls asleep as you're laying down on it, or it just is really uncomfortable. Maybe your hip is digging into the ground because the pad isn't thick enough. So in order to have a comfortable sleeping pad and pressure relief, you want a pad that's going to be thick enough at minimum 3 inches, I think, for a sleeping pad. And then you want one with a good baffling system that's going to relieve pressure. I find horizontal baffles like you see on the Thermarest X-Lite very uncomfortable, whereas the kind of quilted, dimpled baffling system on the REI Helix and the ZenBivy Ultralight are really comfortable. At this point, I know there's some of you who are like, what about the Big Agnes Rapide? I've heard from tons of other YouTubers that the Big Agnes Rapide is a super comfortable sleeping pad. It's warm. It's basically the best thing since sliced bread. But I've been testing it out, and I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed. They updated the Rapide at the end of 2023, and this new one uses a different kind of insulation, has the same kind of baffling system, so it's just as comfortable as the previous version, but it sleeps a lot colder. I never tried out the previous version of the pad, but based on all the reports out there, it did sleep up to its R-value rating, whereas with the new one, it has an R-value rating in the 4s, but I find sleeps basically like it's in the 2s. It's a very cold sleeping pad that you don't want to be taking out when the temperature is cold or if you're sleeping on colder ground. Well, I personally think a sleep system is the most important, is going to be the most impactful upgrade that you can make when in your backpacking gear. The most kind of wow moments that I've had from people when I'm helping them upgrade their gear and figure out what to use has been with backpacks. And I get it. You're carrying a backpack a lot. A sleep system, you're unconscious most of the time when you're using it. With a backpack, you're hiking, you're carrying it, and if it's uncomfortable, causing you pain, or you're frustrated because you can't access the items that you need, I can see why changing out a backpack for something that works well for you makes a big difference in a lot of people's minds. There's really two conditions that I think would lead to maybe me recommending you consider upgrading your pack. The first one is if you're uncomfortable. If your pack is just causing you pain at any point in the day, then definitely consider upgrading it, because you don't need to live that way. You can backpack without pain, especially with the technologies that we have right now. The second reason I'd consider upgrading my backpack is if it weighed over 3 pounds. That may seem lightweight, especially when you have packs that weigh 5, 6 plus pounds, but these days you can get packs that are relatively affordable, can carry 40 plus pounds easily into that under 3 pound range. It's not the biggest deal if you have a heavier pack, but dropping down from something like a 6 pound pack down to a 2 pound pack is very realistic and something that I think is going to make a big difference for people. That's basically carrying 2 liters less water with you for the entire day. If you want to go as ultralight as possible, I think the Wapta 30 is an amazing option. And then the REI Flash 55 is a great pack. If you have a higher pack weight, you need to carry up to 40 plus pounds and just have a lot more gear. But this Wapta 30, if you're in the kind of the 5 to 10 pound base weight range, then this pack is phenomenal and one of my favorite products of 2024. There's one piece of gear that results in more jealousy on trail than anything else that I bring with me. And that's a chair. When other people are sitting on logs and rocks, being able to sit down in a chair, stretch your legs out and take some pressure off of your core and your back It's phenomenal and definitely something you need to try out if you haven't brought a chair on a backpacking trip. It's an upgrade that I'm pretty sure you're never gonna regret. And if you get one that's in the 1 pound range, like the Helinox Chair Zero or the REI Flex Lite Air, which is I think on sale right now at under $100, then you're not going to really have an excuse not to bring the chair with you unless you are kind of like trying to go ultralight. But even still, you can fit a chair into a pretty low pack weight, and it's still going to be amazing to have once you get to camp. If comfort is important to you, go check out my Ultra Comfort gear list. It's all the gear that I bring with me on backpacking trips when I want to maximize how comfortable I am.